Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll.
Look, my little flowering maple, a Butylon, bloomed. How sweet is that? Now I hid it from you. There it is. It is September the 2nd, and I came out to see if it bloomed, and I can tell from here that it did. So let's go around and see the front side of this little plant. Whoa, with its big beautiful bloom, but I was expecting it to be one of these, and these still didn't. They didn't open up. I still think they may just fall off. It's just taking them too long, but we'll see. But surprise, this beautiful red one is blooming. Today is Monday, the 4th of September. It's Labor Day. I hope you're one of the lucky ones that get off work from Labor Day. I wish I was getting off today too, even though, I'm retired, but this is my job, and I'm out here every single day, usually watering, but you can tell that there's just kind of a dullness to everything. Even though the colors are bright, the garden is tired. But when that cooler weather comes, it will try to renew itself, and I hope to get you some beautiful pictures then. Before then it will go away for the winter, and it will not be back. There'll be another garden, and hopefully it'll be similar, but the garden is changing every day, and it certainly changes from season to season. But we are in for at least another week of the hot weather where it's up in the high 90s and 100s, so we'll just have to buckle down and go again. But I think hopefully after that we'll have a little bit of a break, and hopefully it won't go back to the 100-degree temperatures. And I just trimmed this little Mexican heather. It was just all bushy and beautiful, and then it just died. So I guess it was trying to give it up. But even as it's trying to give it up, you can see it does have some new little leaves coming on too. So I trimmed the old stuff off, and I'm hoping that it will have time and go ahead and renew itself and fill back out. But even if it doesn't, it looks better this way than with the old dead stuff still on it. But you can also see that things are beginning to fill out. This at one time just had the little Lenten rose there right in the center. But now these are little seedlings from the impatiens that fell from somewhere in the garden, and they're coming up all around it, filling things out. These are already started. A lot of the plants, they know that it's coming on, and so that the fall weather is coming. They can tell by the shorter days as far as less sunlight in our days. And they're enjoying that. They already are getting ready for it. A lot of things are, but they just can't seem to lose the dull look. But when it actually gets cool enough, they will really shine. I'm thinking they usually do. and the color comes back sharp and clear and just pops, and you can just really enjoy it. I'm so ready to enjoy the garden for a while, but I'm hoping that we do not have a quick freeze, which we have had many times before, a freeze in October. So I hope that doesn't happen, and that we have the full month of October to enjoy the garden. And I'm just grateful for the beauty that it's brought. Try not to think about all those old hot summer days when you're just out here trying to get through. In this little pot, I had determined not to put just the same kinds of flowers I'd been putting in it. I decided on putting in sedum, and this little sedum fell off of one of my other ones, and so I put it here and to get it started. But then after I did, my double impatience and impatience petunias, double petunias and single petunias did begin to bloom. And so now I think maybe I better leave this for the double petunias, because when they do well, they do seem to do well. It's just that heat that they can't quite handle. And I think maybe this week, maybe even today, I'm going to start bringing in my little begonias. I think they would make it through the heat they have so far, but they are looking quite scraggly, and they're not going to make it through the cold nights that will be coming on soon. So I think I'll go ahead and take these in. But that's another thing where you need those little pots ready to fill up, because this will just be empty if I don't put something here. And I have the pots that I started with little zinnias and globe flowers and things and I do enjoy seeing them in there, but it's just that it's so hard to care for all that stuff, and I need to start making it a little bit easier on myself if I can figure out how to do that. But for the most part, I am glad that I put sedum and succulents in some of the small pots, like this little window box inside this little gate planter. But you can tell I picked the real one out here, because it's not showing anything in the planter itself, but it's came out and is trailing way over to the side, so which is not really bad looking there. But I need something that will stay in the pot. You can tell I've also put in some of the little coleus clippings in here, and they are not doing well, but they're still alive. So if it gets nice enough for them without getting too cold for them, we'll see if they'll be pretty. But I do want to change this out next season, next gardening season. So I'm going to start with this little one right here, and first of all I'm going to trim off all the old dead little dead leaves that are on here. These usually look better once you just get this off of them, and they're able to be more healthy, and therefore to keep going better. Get all this stuff off. And some of this is just some of the little willow leaves that have fallen off and are in this pot too, which probably doesn't hurt anything, but I'm going to get them out of there just for appearance sake, so it can start off looking pretty in the house. They definitely struggle in my house. It's not light enough for them, for one thing. I do have some plant lights, but it's just not a good situation for them. But okay, to me it looks better already. And but I'm also remembering how pretty it looked before in this season when we were having all those rains, and it was just loving it. I was afraid it might get too much rain, but it just didn't mind the rain at all. So surprisingly, even my little crown of thorns cactus didn't mind the rain. It loved it, so that's great. But this one's looking pitiful on that one side. I may as well go ahead and take that off too, I think. Okay, let me look a little bit closer here and see. I'm not seeing more of it, of the old dead stuff. There might be a few little scraggly ones that fell off after they died and curled up there in the middle. So, and I do put this this red lava rock on mine. I put it around its little stem because they do have a tendency to get their stem wet, and they don't like that. They want to be evenly moist, but they don't want to be setting in water. I don't suppose any plant wants to just be setting in water and let it get stagnant and stale. They want everything fresh and nice for them. I get that. But okay, you're probably tired of watching me pick out little plants, but that's what I'll do, or little dead leaves, but that's what I'll do to each one of these and bring them inside, and hopefully they'll have a good start to spend the winter in my home, which they don't really like doing, but I'm sure it'll be better than just letting them die in the cold through the winter. So I turned the plant light on it and let its little silvery leaves shine. It almost makes me glad to be bringing plants inside, but I know better than to think they'll always look lovely. But I do think I'll give them the best chance that I can give them. So having a little replacement pot makes me glad I watered this little pot all through the hot summer's heat. Did you ever notice it's so much better, so much easier, and makes you feel better whenever you have done something, but when you are doing it, you don't know if it'll ever be worth it. So here I go with plant number 2. I'm noticing one thing, that this stem is wide and thick, and that's a good thing. I was thinking that this thick stem would help it to save it better, but while I was clipping off the old dead leaves, this one fell off. I am going to put this in some rooting powder and try to re-root it, but I doubt if it will work. I just can't let this go without trying. So here we go, another one ready to go inside, and this little leaf right here is the one that I put back in. And we may just watch it die, but we'll see. Always have to hope for your little ones, but it looks better already, just having the old dead stuff taken off of it, and I think it feels better already, and like maybe trying to go again. I'm hoping that's the case. Now I'll tackle this little beauty. There. Now you can tell it does have potential to become a great beauty. I also cleaned up this little begonia, This little begonia is called Froggy. It's also called Tiger something or something tiger. And this, if it does anything like it did last year, it will live in my home. It will live in Oklahoma heat. It is all about living. And I love it. I just love it. A begonia that I can grow. I hope it's not a fluke thing. You know, I'm always afraid of that when something that wonderful happens. But isn't it a beauty? Now we'll just hope that it's a beauty like this when we bring it out next spring. And for all the love I have for my little froggy begonia or tiger begonia, my polymer prince is still my favorite. Look, there's hardly anything even I have to take off of it. I can see there's one right down here that's going to have to go. But really, it just looks so gorgeous. And this is the first Rex begonia that I totally fell in love with and just couldn't keep my eyes off of it. But it's not as easy to take care of for me, although it did wonderfully this spring. It loved all that water. It didn't die out when it got hot on us, and many things did. But I have a terrible time keeping this through the winter in my home. But of course I'll have to try. And it'll have my heart all along the way. And hopefully it'll come back out next spring and get bigger and more beautiful than ever. I think one of the reasons I love this polymer print so much is because when I first got one, I knew better than to try to bring it inside. So I thought I'll give it to my nephew Clifton because he does houseplants and he has pretty houseplants and he could grow them when I couldn't. So I was going to give it to him, but it didn't make it even for him. So I was reluctant to ever try it again. But I've learned a few things, like of course I just told you about the lava rock. I do put it in it around its little stem, and you can tell this one didn't quite fill out all the way because this side of it didn't fill all the way out. But look at this stem, how it's so tender and watery, and it just needs that little help to drain the water away from its stem, for one thing. And then for another thing, I've learned to put it in a clay pot because the clay pot will not let water just sit in them. They will dissipate right through the sides of it, and it gives them a better chance. That's not to say this will come out in the spring and look lovely, but it is to say I'm trying my best, and if I learn anything else that'll help them, I'll probably do that too if I can. But my little polymer prince is definitely my favorite of the begonias, even though I love them all. But it's, you know, it reminds me of my nephew, and it's just gorgeous. So I have my little replacement pots for where my Rex begonias used to be, and now they are in the house. And this is a good day for anything to be inside where it's cool, including the gardeners, because that old wind is blowing hot air, and it's just, I'm sure the little plants don't really enjoy it any more than we do. It's so hot. But the forecast has got us getting a little bit cooler next week, so we've got to hold on. So far, so good on my little cactus. It does look like it's putting down. You can tell this root in the center looks like it's standing more upright, like it may be building its root. But in this heat, it is struggling and having a hard time. And my little, this little plant with the pretty purple fuzzy hairs on it that makes the whole plant look purple at some times. I started some more of these also, and they were totally wilted down, so I cut all the wilted parts off except
this one little part, and I'm pretty sure it has a root too, so I hope it'll be able to go ahead and go, and it's looking good. I should have showed you what they looked like before, because you would think, these are not going to make it, and they still may not, but I'm definitely hoping they do, and even more hoping that this little cactus will root and grow and become a beauty in my sister's collection. As I've told you, it's been a hot summer. After that second week in July, it's been very hot and no rain to speak of at all. And so we've struggled, and I keep telling my little garden though that it's the last week of it, and today is actually the highest it's going to be is 93, which is going to be hot, but it's not going to be hot for a whole long time because all of our morning was very nice. So it won't be too terribly long now, because next week is supposed to go to the 80s and maybe even the high 70s. So that's going to be great. And it is coming. Somehow you know, but it's hard. It's hard to know when everything is so hot and you just really suffering. And I know the garden is suffering too, but I hope it will hold on and we'll have some beautiful days too. But when it tells me it's going to be in the 50s for lows and some even in the 40s some days, so that's telling me that I have got to get busy and get my houseplants brought inside. I brought a few in, just my Rex Begonias, but I've got to get busy and get everything in so it doesn't get too cold for it. I've read that the houseplants begin to die after 50 degrees, so they need to be inside. But lots of times I have waited longer than that just because I didn't get around to it or forgot because I was busy trying to get a tour ready. But I'm not doing the tours anymore, and I've got to get some of the fall stuff done because there's lots of things that will need to be done in fall. We'll need to be dividing some things and getting them started so they'll be ready to come on next spring, like the daylilies. Those can be divided now and put in, and also I've read that the peonies, if you're going to divide them, it's best to do that in the fall. So there's so much to get busy and get done, and I do want to do a bunch of that stuff. I always love to cut my peonies down in the fall so that they'll be ready to go in the spring, and also my iris, so that will be a job that I'll want to do soon. But first I've got to focus in getting all of the non-hardy things inside. And I have been getting a few seeds along the way. I did get a few of these pink profusion zinnias, and I'll want to get more. I love to have the zinnias in the garden. This little pot is just now beginning to fill out. So I'm hoping it has some time to look beautiful for our fall season. We'll see. Sometimes fall comes quickly and takes everything out, and then other times it lets us have a beautiful time in the garden, which is what I always hope for. See, this little flowering maple abutilon has started to fade, but also there's another one beginning to open up. I'm gonna take this little one for seed too, or this big one I should say. You can see the little touches of fall, but it is hard to realize it when we're still still having 100-degree temperatures, which we will have some more of. We'll have to go through this whole week with it being extremely hot at parts of the time, not all of the time, simply because our mornings and evenings are cooler now, and that sunlight doesn't last so long and so strong on them for such, well, it is strong, it's very strong, the heat is, but it doesn't last as long because the sunlight is not there as long. Look how this lovely little dinosaur kale has taken off and gone. This is the only one though. Most of the other, or all of the other two that I had that came up from seed did not do this well. And this one has a ways to go to be as pretty as the one that I saw at my daughter's, but it's getting thick. The one that I saw looked like it just was ridges of rubber. So pretty. And the dinosaur kale in this little pot was almost completely taken out by the grasshoppers, but it's beginning to try to go again, so maybe it will still be pretty. If we don't lose it all to an early freeze or frost, we should still have some good enjoyable times in the garden. That's what I'm looking forward to. I think the garden is looking forward to it too. This little tiered pot is also just now beginning to fill out, and I remember putting in some little new plants on I think it was the 19th of July, but look, they did come up. We'll see if they'll be able to do anything before the season is gone. Here's another beautiful full double frilly or layered zinnia. This is another one here. These are very pretty, and I may take those for seed, but actually the smaller, when they first come on, they're not that big, they're small, but if they can keep going, they usually do go ahead and get to be this size also. Also, my bougainvillea is just now beginning to bloom, and it's time to take it inside. But I am so looking forward to that time when I don't have to water every day, only every other day or maybe every third day. Oh, I see there's one of my begonias I forgot to take in, and this poor little thing is looking so terrible. I think I'll take that in just today shortly. The garden is constant work, but when I can enjoy it, the beautiful blooms and the wildlife or just nature that comes into the garden, and I can enjoy it with you and share it with you, it makes it all worth it. Of course, it's easier to say it's worth it when there's a gentle breeze and it's almost pretty outside than it is when it's a miserable heat that just soaks through you. This is some of the annual butterfly weed that I planted from seed, and these actually came up volunteer from seed I had before. When I first planted it, I didn't get any the next year, so I thought, I guess I'll have to buy it each year. But then the following year, I did get several of them to come up, so that's great. Okay, she is now ready to come inside and spend the winter and hopefully come back outside and go again. And I've got to find a better spot for this little plant. Even under the weeping willow, it needed more shade than it got. But it cleaned up nicely. this is one little pot I need to change out next year. It does have some of the blue flax in here though, so I'm hoping to maybe put that in a different spot. I don't think it'll ever do well in this little pot. I need a sedum or something that doesn't need much water, but that will still look gorgeous. And I'm going to try one more time to go over here and get this little red dragonfly, but I don't think I'm getting it in focus for you, but it's pretty. And this pretty little balloon flower is looking good today. Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.